instead of training these central algorithms at YouTube, at Apple Podcasts, at Spotify, you actually want to train your own content engine on what your preferences are. So that's why we built this knowledge graph, and we're building it right now. That is a separate way to feed your own personal algorithm. It's a true bring your own algorithm model. And whether that runs on your own Lightning node or in your phone, that's okay. It doesn't really matter where that stuff runs. The important thing is you're training your own assistant and not someone else's.
Right. What do you think some of the applications will be that people use this knowledge graph structure for?
So it will be, to start, we did it for our own purposes. So I was falling behind, as I mentioned before, on Lightning. I couldn't even tell you what some of this stuff is. I mean, I know what trampoline routing does. If you ask me to explain what it is, I get it, sort of. I'm going to mess up the details. So I want to be able to go to the knowledge graph and say, search trampoline routing. And then right now, if I go to Google and search trampoline routing, everyone should do that. See what Google tells you trampoline routing is, or AMP, or Taro, or whatever it is. You're going to get garbage back. Because we've left the job of content indexing. We feel like that's being done by Google. But Google just does one-way linking of web pages. And no one is going out there and building new knowledge first in a web page. That's the last place knowledge ends up. It's being created on podcasts like this. It's Stefan Livera talking about multisig, or having guests on and talking about these topics. Guy Swan. I mean, all of these people are doing the work of pulling knowledge out of people's heads and then communicating it to their audiences over audio, which is way more efficient than reading about it in an article on a web page. So new knowledge is happening off of web pages, but it's not being indexed by the company that we thought was indexing everything and making it available to us. So what we're doing is actually we've taken 1,500 podcast episodes so far on Bitcoin alone, and we're adding 300 to 400 a week right now. So our rate is accelerating, and we're going backwards in time. And so if I go to our knowledge graph, which is the topics are almost like the constellations of the universe. They're all just floating around linked to each other. I can search for the word trampoline routing, and then I can get 6 clips back that are all from different shows and different episodes on that topic. And then a virtual podcast is structured, and I can hit play and listen to those 6 clips and get the latest information on trampoline routing from the audio content where it's being created in the first place.
Fascinating.
So human knowledge is not happening on web pages. That's what's being indexed. And it's not searchable. So the new information where the good stuff is happening is actually the least searchable content out there. And if you take the Podcasting 2.0 chapter tags, that's like the birth of this whole thing, and then you apply that to the YouTube timestamps, that's another version of this is where it gets back to protocols and standards and having these things searchable and machine readable. So having the topic in a Substack, trampoline routing, should pull that for you and auto read it to you if you happen to be in the car. And then it should grab the 4th to 6th minute of a YouTube video that's timestamped on trampoline routing. And it should grab 3 podcast episodes that have talked about it, just a couple of minutes that cover that topic. And then I listen to those 6 topics for 15 minutes, and now I'm up to speed on trampoline routing.
So this sounds a lot like a new version of Google. Is that the right way to frame this?
I think it's just doing the job in a modernized way that no one else is doing it, and we're doing it, again, our pattern is do it for our own purposes. Now I'm listening to stuff through Sphinx. I consume most of my content through Sphinx now. And then I'm now training a model that is learning what I'm interested in, and it's working for me. It's going to suggest to me, oh, you just understood trampoline routing. You should look at AMP. And I go, yeah, what's AMP? I should look at that. And I listen to those 10 minutes. And that's also content discovery. I'm discovering, your podcast or Stefan's podcast, because I'm hearing that 3-minute snippet and I go, this is really good. I'm going to just stay on this one. And so what a better way to experience the topics you're interested in and your algorithm's working for your education and your entertainment, not what YouTube thinks you should watch next to stay on their YouTube app.
Right.
So
Now, is
Let's
there a
capture.
way?
That's like an incredible waste of time when we fall for the YouTube tricks, and they're really good at it. So
They are very good.
yeah.
Um, is there a way to tie in Lightning here and payments in the job of classifying information? Because that seems like it's one of those things again where maybe an AI engine can do that if it's a YouTube timestamp. But what happens if it's like unstructured or the data doesn't
Yeah,
quite line
yeah.
up to the description?
So we are hiring people right now over our best sources, Stacker News. So Keon's site there, where we got the initial people to do it. You post the stuff on Reddit, and everyone, you're banned as a spammer if you say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you Bitcoin." Actually, you're banned. Stacker News, we post it there. We have great people who've come on board, and so we're using the Stackwork model of pay Bitcoin for people to seed this initial database. So it's already using our own tool to build this graph, and then using Lightning to pay people to build the graph. But that model of an entity like us paying to build something doesn't work. So what we're working on, and we'd love input from people, is gamifying the creation of this graph. So we just started. We've got the Bitcoin ones pretty huge right now, and we'll hopefully move backwards in time. And our goal would be, is this the best way to learn and understand Bitcoin related topics? I don't think there's a great place to understand this right now. To have people go, oh, you want to understand multisig? Well, go to these sites and listen to these 15 episodes. Listen to minutes. And think about how you share information with people. It's incredibly inefficient. So we will need to gamify the creation of these graphs. So we just started one on Austrian economics. So there is no, I mean, the Nakamoto Institute's amazing for this, but there's no one capturing all the different podcasts and videos talking about Austrian economics. So we're moving to a cousin of Bitcoin into that topic. We also had an offsite where we're teaching people to do fly fishing. So Sam, the amazing project manager on this, built this for fly fishing too. So if you've never been fly fishing before, we ingested hundreds of videos and podcasts on the topic of fly fishing, and you can just search for Fly Fishing 101 and watch 20 minutes and have a reasonable start to the whole thing. So there is no tool I'm aware of today that does that for you. I can't think
And
of
this could
one.
expand to everything over time, right? Is there a limitation on
Yeah,
what
no,
kind of knowledge it could serve?
no. And each graph could be hosted by a Lightning node, and you could earn Bitcoin sats for storing and serving this graph.